These windows are very important from a historical and an artistic standpoint. The glass is just exquisite, and the fact that it represents the 7 angels of Revelation is not a theme that I've really seen before in Tiffany.
They had been in these boxes since 1964, so that was over 40 years. They had just been sitting there collecting dirt, waiting until we could find them and bring them out into the light again. I don't know what you've filmed already, but you know, this was built in 3 centuries. The first building is 1734. It's just what we use for the children's room and the bedroom above it. And then this section was put on in the mid-1800s. This is the living room, dining room, and then there's 3 bedrooms upstairs. This area and then the whole chapel was put on in the 1960s. And this barn over here is where the angel windows were stored. And you can tell by how much it's leaking. Well, the windows must have come sometime in the 80s, and they were just stacked here on pallets. I had some of my own storage in here for a while, and actually this is how you can tell how wet it gets in here. This used to be good play equipment for children, but now it's full of water because it's been coming in from the roof. They were loaded onto a pickup truck to be brought up to Sky Meadow. The young people, 18 to 20-somethings, of our national church would come here a couple times a year to have a retreat. So when they came, we got the young people to lift them into the pickup truck and we drove them out. So we probably didn't have a real sense of the value of them at that point. When we unboxed them, they don't look much different to me than when they went into storage. That would have been in 2001, after we had them appraised.
You need a little bit more protection for the window than you do for the light box. So you build a box that you can safely transport the windows in. They just get taken out of that, slipped into the light box.
I get a lot of calls about people that have stained glass, and we get a call from someone down in Westchester, PA, that they have a leaky roof in a garage, the water's dripping on these boxes, and they looked in the boxes, and there's stained glass windows in there. And they even think maybe they're Tiffany. So we go down to Westchester, we lifted up the first crate, opened it up, and as the cover was coming off, I knew instantly that it really did have Tiffany windows, and very, very good Tiffany windows.
Who boxed these up?
They were in these boxes the whole time they were in that shed with Temenos.
Turn that over. I bet you there's a rubbing on it already. Oh no, not too much.
Bar lines.
Stored in our basement all this time, and I've never seen one.
Oh, really?
See, you should have set them up in the living room.
The textures and the quality of the glasswork, that caught our attention right away, that this was not something to just keep in a box or ignore.
And then it's just the hands and the face that are painted, right?
Yes.
My hand.
And then this is the plating. The multiple layers in the back.
Well, that's freaky. She's faceless back there.
Yeah. If I had to guess, I would say 1907, 1910, somewhere in there.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh my. What is that at the top? Is that a star? Oh, that's a star.
So they take the blue flash, which is a very thin layer of intense glass, off the surface. The background glass is either white or maybe a pale yellow, and that lets the light come through. And even the way the names are done, that's etched, again, in flash glass, and that's atypical. So that's another signature of Tiffany's. Even down to the font that's used is very typical of Tiffany.
When they took them out to restore them, found that mostly what they had to do was clean them. So when Kathy Jordan at the Art of Glass was doing the work of cleaning them, she made a point of having everyone who was cleaning the windows collect the dirt. So they actually had a big bucket of dirt. It looked like 2 gallons of dirt that they had cleaned off of these windows. The original idea for the windows was that they were a gift to the Church of the New Jerusalem at Oak and Winslow Street in Cincinnati, which was just being built by the Glendale Society. And they were given to the church in memory of Charles and Mary Allen, who had been very active in helping to create this community that was going to be the Church of the New Jerusalem. These are churches that are not far apart geographically. We haven't found something exactly about why they commissioned that particular series of windows, but we suspect there was some conversation with Tiffany about the Swedenborgian view of angels, that angels are human beings who have gone into the next world, because you'll notice the hand-painted faces and hands look very human. A lot of Tiffany art is focused on landscapes, and so this is one of the things that's unique about these windows, is that they are human figures, and that's not something that's typical of Tiffany designs. I can see why they would have wanted the property for the highway, even though it ended up being the hospital, because the highway is so close. When the city decided that they needed to tear down the church, they destroyed the building and the windows were removed. However, they weren't just given to the church. The church had to pay to get the windows back. I think at that point didn't have an actual plan. They might have been thinking of putting them in a new church in Cincinnati, but that didn't happen. So was this all the church? This was a church, part of the church building too?
Well, they had the church, and then there was also the parsonage.
Okay.
And they matched.
One of the things that's interesting, if you go back to that site where the church was, it actually is a distance from the highway. The highway went alongside where the church was, and there's a hospital parking lot. In the long view, they might not have had to have torn the church down, but it's gone.
Two things that came into consideration for the church when the city bought it was, one, we wanted to keep the library, keep the books. And the other thing, we wanted to keep some of the stained glass windows. The angel windows, which have a lot of theological meaning to our church, we bought those back from the city. So that's how they came to my garage, and they were there for some years. And then they went to members of the church, Hackett's garage, down the street from us. And then they needed the space, and they ended up in Pete's garage.
It was long enough ago that I can just vaguely remember the trip. And at one point I doubted whether it was really me that was there. But I do have memories of the fact that it was a truck. We did have quite a party trying to load them in there. I remember the shed at Temenos where they got placed. Right. And I think the idea was that they weren't going to be there for very long. And then we sort of lost track of them after that.
It's a treasure. I mean, we had buried treasure out in the barn. Right now the project is to get the windows restored, because that's the money that's been donated. There were a lot of people that we said, hey, we're photographing. If you want to see the windows, now's the time, because they're going back in the boxes as soon as we take the pictures. The photographs, we made note cards and bookmarks, and Sherry and I sat and labeled all these boxes and boxes of bookmarks and note cards, and we raised $200. And then we got the estimate from Art for restoring the windows, and that was going to be over $50,000.
Because you want an exhibition level restoration. So I think we can keep them in the frames the whole time. That will maintain as much of the original fabric as possible.
We weren't sure how fast we would ever progress with this project, but one of our church members, who up until her death wanted to remain anonymous, but now I can reveal her name, it's Helen Trippier, and she said to me, come with me, we're going to the bank. And she went and got $50,000 out of her bank account and said, I want this to go towards restoring the windows, because I want you to do this before I'm dead. They were always in the boxes. Ever since they've been here, they've been in the boxes. We've never taken them out. Just the one time to film, to take photographs. That was the one time they came out. Of course, by the time we got started on the restoration, it was going to cost more than the original gift, because it was a couple of years later. So then the Ladies' Aid Society, they had $10,000 in their bank account, and this is only from turkey suppers and church bazaars.
Pray the Lord, my soul. bridesmaid, my sister, Ernie Martin, and a few of the angels behind.
What year is this?
I think it was 1949.
When there's no light on it and you can't see what the colors are, you can't see the painted faces, but you can see the texture of the drapery glass, and you can see how the stone of the pergamus window juts out. You want to touch it, and of course if it's in a museum, that's the last thing they want you to do is touch it, but it's so three-dimensional.
But most of the time, these windows are going back into an architectural setting. So you have to restore them in a way that they can deal with the forces and the weather and everything else. We knew that these were never going to do that they were going to be touring. So the way we restored these, we actually maintained them in their original frames, with the original bars, with the original support system, and all of the work was done from the back of the windows. So you literally are seeing the windows just the way they were originally made from Tiffany.
What's so amazing when they turn the lights on is the things you can't see that you then can see. Like the star at the top is actually a number of layers back. So you won't see that star until the lights are turned on. And that's so much like in a person that you can't see inside of them what their real intentions are, what their real feelings are, until some light is shined either on their words or their actions. And that's the light that shines what's inside of us into the world. These windows are very much a correspondence to a human being because there's so much of us that we don't show until something turns a light on and we're revealed.